Picture this. It's 1964. You're in this bustling recording studio in New York City.
Okay.
And right at the center of the room is one of the most famous, just universally beloved men on the face of the planet.
A total musical titan.
Exactly. A guy who basically wrote the blueprint for modern jazz. So he's standing at a microphone getting ready to record a Broadway tune, and suddenly he just stops.
Right in the middle of everything.
Right in the middle. He glares at his producer, and this very tense, very real standoff begins over a single letter, the letter S.
It is such a cinematic moment in music history, you know?
Yeah.
Like you have this towering figure of mid-century culture actively fighting to preserve something as basic as his own given name.
It's wild. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today, we are exploring the bizarre and honestly surprisingly dramatic history of how the entire world collectively decided to rename a global icon.
Completely against his will, I might add.
Totally against his will. We are digging into the historical record today. Specifically, we're looking at Terry Teachout's definitive biographical work and this really fascinating 1947 piece from PM magazine.
Yeah, that article is key.
It really is. We're trying to figure out how Louis Armstrong lost control of his own first name.
It really is one of the most fascinating case studies in pop culture identity. I mean, we're talking about a cultural ambassador here.
Oh, absolutely.
A revolutionary trumpet player, a band leader whose face and, that raspy voice were recognized on almost every continent.
Oh, yeah. Instantly recognizable.
Right. And yet the core foundation of his public identity, like what you actually call the man, is just fundamentally muddled.
It really is. So take a second, wherever you are sitting right now listening to this, and just say his first name out loud in your head, just how you've always heard it.
I can almost guarantee what they're saying.
Right. Most of you probably just said Louis. L-O-E-E. And honestly, why wouldn't you? If you turn on the radio or, I don't know, watch a documentary or hear a television host introduce his tracks, you are almost 100% guaranteed to hear Louis Armstrong.
It's just ubiquitous at this point. I mean, the culture has entirely settled on that pronunciation.
Completely.
Like if you were at a trivia night and you confidently referred to him with a hard S, Louis, someone would probably politely correct you.
They'd think you were the one making a mistake.
Exactly. They just assume you didn't know much about jazz.
But, and here's where it gets crazy, if we look at the primary sources, the historical record tells a completely different story.
It really does.
And this isn't just hearsay, right? It's on the record, in print.
Absolutely in print.
Yeah.
If you go back to 1947, Armstrong actually sat down for an interview with a publication called PM magazine.
Right.
And this wasn't just a passing comment or a joke. He explicitly addressed the confusion. He stated on the record, quote, "My mother always called me Louis, not Louis."
Wow.
And he put a very heavy, deliberate accent on the S.
So L-O-A's?
L-O-is, yeah. He was pointing directly to his mother, to his roots down in New Orleans, and formally laying down the law on how his name was supposed to be spoken by the public.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because think about how frustrating that must have been for him.
Oh, it had to be maddening.
Right. Imagine if you spent your life dealing with people misspelling or mispronouncing your name, so you finally do an interview in a major publication. You explicitly correct it.
You lay it all out.
And then the entire global population just continues to ignore you for the next 70 years.
Yeah, they just brush right past it.
It's like having a corporate email signature that says James, and every single person in your company just keeps replying, "Thanks, Jimbo."
That is exactly what it's like. And not just for a few years, but for decades. It eventually cemented itself into the historical narrative forever.
But wait, I have to challenge the mechanics of this because I don't get it.
Okay, yeah.
If he literally went on the record in 47 and said, "My mother calls me Louis," how did the press just bypass that? I mean, how did the industry ignore a direct mandate from the artist himself? Was it just sheer laziness on the media's part?
I mean, it wasn't just laziness, and it definitely wasn't some grand conspiracy either.
Yeah.
The problem Armstrong faced in 1947 was that the machinery of the entertainment industry had already spent more than a decade building a completely different brand.
I see.
Yeah. By the time he tried to set the record straight, the momentum of pop culture had already, overpowered his personal preference.
The train had left the station.
Exactly. To understand why, we actually have to jump backwards to the environment of the music industry in 1933.
Okay, let's follow the paper trail.
Right. So in April 1933, there's this record released titled Laughin' Louie.
Okay.
Now, if you're a casual fan or even a historian trying to piece this together later, You look at that record sleeve, you say, well, there it is.
Right, it's printed right there.
Yeah. His own record says Louis. Case closed.
It's written right on the label of his own product. But there is a massive catch here, isn't there?
A huge one, yeah. Armstrong didn't actually write Laughin' Louie.
Wait, really?
Nope. The tune was penned by a very successful Tin Pan Alley songwriter named Clarence Gaskell.
Okay.
And what's really crucial to understand about the music industry in the 1930s is the dynamic between the songwriters, the publishers, and the performers.
Right, let's unpack that. Because
Yeah.
today I think we tend to view artists as these, like, ultimate auteurs, right?
Yeah, we think they control everything.
Exactly. We assume they control every aspect of their brand, their lyrics, their song titles.
But back then, the power resided heavily with the publishers.
Right.
Artists were often just interpretive vehicles. I mean, Gaskell didn't even write this song specifically for Armstrong.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was an existing piece of material that Armstrong was just handed to perform. The title Laughin' Louie was a commercial product created by someone else entirely.
But the public just consumes the art and assumes it's this perfectly accurate, autobiographical reflection of the artist.
Exactly. They don't see the behind-the-scenes mechanics.
I see. So if that's the case, why didn't Armstrong just refuse to record it? Like,
Yeah.
if I'm a rising star and someone hands me a sheet of music with my own name misspelled on the title, I'm tossing it back across the desk. Why did he play along?
Because in 1933, you didn't really have the leverage to toss it back across the desk.
Even if you were Louis Armstrong.
Even if you were Louis Armstrong. You were under contract, you were in a studio on the clock, and your job was to cut records that the label could sell.
Right, it was a factory, basically.
Precisely. And the publisher thought Louis sounded catchy, perhaps a bit more colloquial and friendly.
A bit more marketable.
Right. So it goes on the label,
Mhm.
and once it's on a physical record, that pronunciation becomes a tangible fact in the minds of the consumers.
Wow, so the brand is just out there. It's metastasizing in the public consciousness.
Yeah.
And even when he tries to correct it years later, in that 1947 PM magazine interview, the record-buying public is already locked in.
They are completely locked in, which brings us all the way back to our starting point in 1964.
Right, the studio standoff.
Yes, because this tension between the artist's real name and his colloquial brand eventually just reaches a boiling point.
The recording session for Hello, Dolly.
Exactly.
Which, just for some context for everyone listening, this is not just another song.
Oh, no, not at all.
This is a monumental cultural moment. It's
Yeah.
1964. The British invasion is happening. The Beatles are absolutely dominating the charts.
Slowly dominating.
And here comes a 60-something-year-old jazz legend who casually knocks the Beatles out of the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100.
It's just a massive career-defining blockbuster.
Incredible.
And the music and lyrics for the original Broadway show were written by the legendary composer Jerry Herman. But Herman wasn't actually the source of the conflict here.
No, the conflict came from inside the house, so to speak.
Right.
From the producer of the session, a guy named Mickey Kapp.
Yeah, Mickey Kapp. He was an executive and a producer at Kapp Records, and he was very focused on the commercial appeal of this track. In Jerry Herman's original Broadway version, the lyric is incredibly straightforward. It's just, hello, Dolly. Well, hello, Dolly.
Simple. Gets the job done.
Right. But Kapp sees an opportunity here. He wants to capitalize on Armstrong's immense, larger-than-life persona.
Ah, I see where this is going.
So right there in the studio, Kapp suggests that Armstrong should personalize the lyric to introduce himself to the audience.
Oh, boy.
He directs Armstrong to sing, hello, Dolly, it's Louis Dolly.
It's Louis Dolly. Wow.
Yeah.
He is literally instructing a grown man, a music legend, to use a nickname he has publicly rejected.
Right to his face.
Why was Kapp so fixated on Louis anyway?
It really comes down to the mechanics of pop culture branding.
Okay.
To a mid-century pop producer like Kapp, Louis, with a hard S, it sounded a bit formal.
Stuffy, maybe?
Yeah, perhaps a bit stiff or overly French, you know. But Louis was avuncular.
Right.
This is cuddly. It sounded like your favorite uncle. Kapp was selling a feeling of intimacy to the American public. He wanted that colloquial brand.
But Armstrong wasn't having it this time.
Not at all.
According to Terry Teachot's biography, Armstrong didn't just nod and go along with it like he might have back in 1933.
No, he had leverage now.
He pushes back vehemently.
Yeah.
Teachot writes that Armstrong literally grunted at the producer, "It's Louis."
He planted his flag. He made sure to emphasize that heavy, elongated S.
I love that. And seriously, if you pull up the recording of Hello, Dolly on Spotify or Apple Music after this deep dive, Listen closely to that opening stanza.
Yeah, it's undeniable.
Because he did it. The hard S is deliberately, unmistakably, audibly there on the track. It's Louis, Dolly. He forces it into the microphone.
It's a tremendous moment of agency. I mean, you have to consider the power dynamic in that run.
Oh, absolutely.
Even in 1964, as a globally recognized black artist in a white-dominated industry, asserting that kind of boundary required immense conviction.
Yeah.
He was essentially having to actively fight his own producer, just to maintain the dignity of the name his mother gave him.
It's just wild. So if we look at the timeline we've built so far, the label gets it wrong in 1933 with Laugh-In Louie.
Right.
Armstrong explicitly corrects the record in 1947, demanding the hard S.
Yep.
And in 1964, he aggressively defends the S against a major pop producer. The paper trail is documented. He wanted to be called Louis. Case closed. The public just got it wrong.
You would really think that completely settles the debate.
I mean, it seems like it.
We have the primary source, we have his actions in the studio.
But this wouldn't be a proper deep dive if there wasn't a massive curveball waiting for us.
And it is a curveball that completely scrambles the narrative.
Oh, yeah?
Because everything we've talked about so far, the songwriters, the journalists, the producers, that all exists in the public sphere.
That's the business side.
Right, that's the music business. But what happens when the microphones turn off and he goes home?
The inner circle.
Exactly. When we look at his private life, we encounter a profound contradiction.
This part blew my mind.
I know, right? Many of the people who actually knew Armstrong personally, the people in his closest orbit, referred to him entirely without the S.
So strange.
They called him Louis.
That just completely scrambles everything we just talked about.
Yep.
If he was willing to grunt at a powerful record producer over this, how on earth is his inner circle calling him Louis?
Well, the most shocking piece of evidence for this comes from his own wife, Lucille.
Wow.
There is actual video interview footage of Lucille Armstrong, and in it, you can hear her very clearly and casually pronouncing her late husband's name as Louis.
His own wife?
His own wife.
The woman who arguably knew him better than anyone else in the world, the person he shared his private life with, drops the S entirely.
Completely drops it.
How do we make sense of that? Why would a man who quoted his mother in the press to ensure his name was respected let his own wife call him the very thing he hated?
It's a great question. To understand that, we have to really explore the psychology of a public versus private persona, especially for a black entertainer in mid-century America.
Okay, yeah.
When Armstrong was speaking to the press in 1947, or when he was asserting himself against Mickey Kapp in the studio in 1964, he was functioning in a professional public sphere that didn't always afford him automatic respect.
Right. By insisting on Louis, he is establishing a boundary.
Exactly.
He is demanding the dignity of his formal given name.
Precisely. My mother named me Louis. It's a declaration of formal identity in a world that often tried to commodify him or diminish him into a caricature.
That makes total sense.
But at home, with Lucille, or backstage with his closest friends, those power dynamics dissolve.
He doesn't have to fight.
Right. He didn't need to assert his formal dignity with his wife.
So in that private space, the name transforms.
Yes. Louis likely evolved from a public misconception into a private term of endearment.
Like a nickname.
Yeah. It became an affectionate shorthand, a nickname that belonged exclusively to the people who truly knew him behind closed doors, where he could finally relax and take the armor off.
It's essentially a form of code switching, really.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's map this onto a modern, everyday scenario for a second. Say your given name is James.
Okay.
You go into the office, and you insist to your boss and your colleagues, my name is James. Please use James on the reports, on the emails.
Professional James.
Right. When the new guy calls you Jim, you politely but firmly correct him.
You're setting the professional boundary.
Exactly. But then Friday rolls around, you go home, and your spouse and your best friends from college all call you Jimmy.
Right.
To them, you're just Jimmy, and you love it when they call you that because it means you're off the clock. You don't have to be James the professional anymore.
That is a perfect way to frame it. The formal name requires a certain posture, while the nickname allows for relaxation.
So the grand irony here is that the public, the millions of people buying his records and watching him on television essentially bypassed his professional boundary and adopted his most intimate family nickname.
Yeah, without even realizing it.
The whole world decided they were on a Jimmy basis with a guy who is actively demanding they call him James.
That is exactly what happened. And honestly, it speaks volumes about how the public perceived him.
Definitely.
His music was so incredibly warm, his vocal style was so inviting, and his stage presence was so joyful that audiences felt an intense personal intimacy with him.
Like I knew him.
Right? They didn't view him as a distant, untouchable maestro. They viewed him as a friend.
And so they organically gravitated toward the softer, friendlier, more avuncular pronunciation.
The Louis that Mickey Cap was trying to bottle and sell in 1964.
Wow. Which creates the ultimate double-edged sword of global fame, doesn't it?
It really does.
You become universally loved, you bring joy to millions of people, but in the process, you kind of surrender ownership of your own identity.
Yeah.
The masses take your name, chew it up, and give it back to you in a way that makes them feel comfortable.
Even if you spend decades, gently, and sometimes not so gently, reminding them that they aren't actually in your inner circle.
It's honestly a little heartbreaking when you think about it that way. The public loved him so much they basically smothered his actual name.
It creates a lot of stress for anyone trying to talk about him historically today, too.
Oh, I bet.
Because if you want to be factually accurate and honor his mother's intentions, you should absolutely say Louis.
Right.
But if you do, you risk confusing your audience culturally because everyone knows him as Louis, which also happens to be the affectionate name his own wife used. You're just caught between historical accuracy and cultural reality.
Well, thankfully, for anyone who wants to talk about this jazz giant without stepping on a historical landmine, there is an ultimate stress-free compromise.
A way out of the phonetic quicksand.
Exactly. If you don't want to get into a debate at your next dinner party about the hard S, and you don't feel like explaining the 1947 PM magazine interview,
Or detailing the Mickey Cap studio clash of 1964.
right, you can always just bypass his first name entirely and use his incredibly famous, universally accepted nickname,
Pops.
Pops. It's absolutely perfect.
It is the great equalizer. It sidesteps the phonetic debate completely, while still honoring the deep affection, the reverence, and the respect that both his musical peers and his global fans had for him.
It really does.
He was the father of modern jazz, so Pops fits perfectly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just look back at the sheer distance this narrative covers.
It's a journey.
It really is. We started with a mother in New Orleans naming her son Louis with a firm, solid S.
Yep.
Then we watched that foundational name get caught in the gears of the 1930s music publishing industry, where a songwriter's catchy title overwrote reality.
We saw an aging artist in the 1960s fighting a pop producer to reclaim that dignity, forcing the S onto a #1 record.
And finally, we ended up in his own living room, with the revelation that his wife used the very nickname he publicly fought against, blurring the lines between public respect and private affection.
So complex.
It just proves that even someone with that much sheer talent, power, and cultural influence couldn't completely control his own mythos once the public got their hands on it.
It reminds us that history isn't just a record of what happened. History is shaped by the people who consume it, who repeat it, and who remember it.
That's a great point.
And sometimes their collective affection completely overrides an individual's stated truth. The brand just outgrows the man.
Which brings us back to where we started.
Yeah.
The idea that the basic facts about global icons are etched in stone. I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on as you go about the rest of your day.
If you think about the sheer scale of modern fame,
Right. If your own spouse, the music industry executives, and the entire global public eventually adopt a version of your name that you explicitly corrected in the press, well, who actually owns your identity after you're gone?
that's the real question.
Is your legacy defined forever by what you firmly called yourself? Or is it ultimately defined by what the world decides it wants to call you?